Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to be taking a look at another one of these shell replacement programs. Now we've taken a look at a couple of these recently, but most of the ones that we've taken a look at on this channel were for older versions of Windows. But this one that we're going to be taking a look at today is called Cairo, and it is actually made for Windows 7 and up. So this actually runs on Windows 10. And what this is a pretty cool Linux and macOS like shell replacement for Windows Explorer. It actually has a goal of completely replacing the start menu, taskbar, and even the Windows Explorer, as it kind of gives you a new interface to kind of browse for your files, and it's honestly pretty cool. And so this can be accessed by going to cairoshell.com. I will have this link down below, and you can actually download it through GitHub. That is actually where it is hosted. So if you go to the website and click on that download button right there, it'll take you to Cairo Shell's GitHub page where you can see the latest version. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Cairo Desktop M3.6800, which is the latest version as of this video. Now on the website right here, and this is a free piece of software, I should also mention that, which is definitely pretty cool, but it does kind of advertise these four main interface modifications that it makes to the Windows shell. So you can kind of read up on this if you wanted to actually kind of learn a little bit more about it before you actually download it. But as I said, in this video we're going to be taking an in-depth look at this shell and just kind of what it actually does. So I've got a fresh Windows 10 virtual machine right here, and we have the Cairo shell 64 bits. And the installer is, your basic installer. There's nothing really special here. You just want to agree to the license agreement. And this is actually very important. Because first of all, it asks you if you want to run the shell at startup, which if you were wanting this to kind of replace the Windows Explorer shell, that would obviously be something that you would want to do. And the second option right here, which is unchecked by default, is replace Explorer, which is only going to do it for the current user. And I would actually recommend checking this box here, because this is going to basically give you the full Cairo experience. Now, if you weren't really sure if you wanted the shell to completely replace Windows Explorer, well then you could just uncheck that. But this can be changed later on in the actual Cairo shell itself, so it's not a huge deal if you check it now and then decide later on that you don't want to use this as your default shell. So once you have all of these settings configured to your liking, just press install, and now you want to actually start the Cairo desktop environment. It's a very fast install there, as you could probably tell. And what it will do is it will first actually get rid of Windows Explorer. You can see the icons actually disappear from the desktop. The taskbar actually turns on auto hide, and it actually launches the Cairo shell. Now you can see there that those command prompt windows opened up, and it actually got rid of the taskbar, but it is actually still running in the background because you can still press the Windows key to open up the start menu. Now if you were to reboot your system, you wouldn't actually be able to open up the start menu using the Windows key. You would have to actually manually launch Explorer or go into Cairo and just disable the shell. And you can see that this is the interface of Cairo. You've got your menu bar up here with your clock and search functionality, which we're going to get into in a minute, over here on the right side. You've got your newly designed desktop icons here, and then you also have the replacement taskbar, which you can kind of see doesn't really go across the entire screen. It actually dynamically adjusts to how many programs that you actually have open. So right now we only have this one Welcome to Cairo program open, so that's the only thing that actually shows down here. So this is the kind of tour interface, and this is actually very important to go through, because what you can do is actually set up what options you want to appear in this programs menu up here, because right now you see there's nothing in here. But before you get to that, it's going to kind of tell you some bullet points about the menu bar and then the dynamic desktop. We're going to get into all of this later on, in detail, me actually showing you everything, but you can obviously read this if you want to. And once you hit finish tour, what it's going to do is actually find your applications. And this is where you can, and again, you can open this up later on if you decide that you want to add things to it, but this is how you actually basically tell Cairo what you want to show up in this programs menu up here. It's not going to by default have like every single program in there like it would in the Windows Start menu. So it kind of selects some most commonly used programs by default, but over here you have a list of all of your installed applications. So kind of what the idea here is having your most frequently used programs contained in this programs menu. You could obviously add all of them if you want to, but you definitely have the option of of only adding the ones that you most frequently use. So for example, if I want to have the Cairo desktop launcher itself in the programs menu, I could just drag it over, and then there it is. Let's say that I use the control panel would probably be one of the more important ones to have. I could drag that over. Let's say that I want to have disk cleanup. I could drag that over. Let's scroll down here and get, let's see, Paint 3D, why not? So you can kind of go through here and just really customize this and add things over here. So once you have this kind of configured to your liking, you can just press continue down here, and now it actually wants you to categorize everything. So for those programs that it had added by default, it kind of made categories automatically for you. So it's got like your internet applications here, accessories, and media for Windows Media Player. So what it wants you to do is actually go through here and for the applications that you just added, which are all going to be uncategorized, it wants you to make categories for that. So let's say that I want to add Paint 3D. I want to move that to accessories. So I can just bring that down here. Now Paint 3D is going to be under accessories. And then let's say for these three programs up here, I want to make a new category. And if I right click on this label here, I can rename it. And let's say I want to call this settings, because that's basically what all these programs are. And then I can just drag these down here to settings. Do that with control panel, and we'll do that with disk cleanup as well. And then what you can do is, like, if you had a ton of programs here, what you can do is actually click on hide, and what that will do is hide the applications that are already categorized. So that way you could easily get a better view at all of your different categories if you had a lot of programs to categorize. So once you have this kind of set up to your liking, you just want to click finish. And now what it's going to do is, if you go up here to this programs menu, you see you've got all of your applications that you've added here. But then you have your categories over here to the right side. So if I want to only view my settings, I can click this, and now it's going to only view those programs that I marked as in the settings category in the app grabber. And that's what that interface was called. It's called the app grabber. So I can go back into that and customize this, like if I add new programs, or if I remove certain programs, or if I just want to completely change it up, you can very easily do that from this interface right here. So Cairo has three main interfaces that I want to talk about. We're going to start up here with the menu bar, then we're going to go down to the dynamic desktop, which is what this little interface corresponds to, and then we're going to move down here to the taskbar. So for the menu bar up here, if you've ever used macOS or a Linux distribution, or even both, you're going to probably notice some similarities between Cairo and those operating systems. So we're going to start over here with the Cairo menu itself, and this kind of gives you some options to view the program information. You can click on About Cairo, and that just gives you a pop-up here. It says Cairo Desktop Environment. This is actually a pre-release. And copyright 2007. This has been in development, I guess, since 2007, so that's pretty awesome. You can check for updates. You can open things like the app grabber, which is that interface that we already took a look at here. You can open up the Cairo settings, and this is where you kind of change all of the settings that pertain to the Cairo shell itself. So you can, for example, say you want to automatically check for updates. You can change the language. You can change the theme. So there's this white theme right here, which kind of gives it a bit of a different look, although it looks like the menus themselves still are black. But if you kind of want to change the title bar, or sorry, the menu bar to a different color, you can do that. And then moving down, you've got options to open up the Windows control panel. You've got your run command right here, task manager, and then all of your sleep and power options down here as well. Now the programs menu and the places menu really are the only two other menus that are contained in the menu bar. Now we already took a look at the programs menu. Now the places folder over here allows you to open up some of your user folders, so things like your documents, downloads, music, pictures, and videos. And then you have a option to open up this PC down here. Now the interesting thing, and this is kind of one of the big interface changes with Cairo, is that all of these folders right here don't actually open up in File Explorer. They actually are shortcuts to open them up on your desktop. And I'm going to get to that once we talk about the desktop later on in this video. Now for the documents and downloads up here, these are actually not menus, but they're actually folders, and these actually correspond to your documents and downloads folder in File Explorer. So basically everything you had in your documents folder would be contained here, and this is just to give you very quick access to some of your most commonly used files. So say for example you were working on a important project and you wanted quick access to it, you could get very easy access to it by going to your documents folder up here. And say that it wasn't even contained in your documents folder. Say that you wanted to add, and let's just go into this PC here, and say that I wanted to add, let's just use my Windows folder as an example. Say that this was a folder with some very important project files that I needed very quick access to. What you can do is just drag this up to the menu bar, and it actually creates a little shortcut for you there. So now I can click on this, and then what I can do is I can go through here and browse through these folders and open up files from here, just as if I was doing it in a File Explorer. Now, the last thing that I want to show you is on the right side over here, and this is where you have things like your new clock and calendar. There is a new calendar for the Cairo shell as well. You've got your volume settings over here, which actually opens up the older style volume settings window. This arrow right here kind of pops out and shows you all of your items running in the system tray. And over here you have a kind of similar to Spotlight Search, where you can kind of, at least the older version when it was actually contained up here, as opposed to coming up in the center of the screen like it does now on macOS. So this is where I can browse for specific files. So if I want to search for, let's say, Paint, I can search for that here, and I can now launch the Paint program right from this search function. You can kind of see it was a little bit delayed there as I was typing, but now it seems to kind of keep up with me. So there you go. Now, I'm sure you guys are kind of wondering what's going on with the desktop, and I'm going to kind of really talk about that as well, because that is another one of the main functionalities of this program. So Cairo has what they're calling a dynamic desktop, and if you go to the website here, one of the things that it touts is with Cairo, your desktop is browsable, meaning that you never need to open a File Explorer to find your things. So by dynamic desktop, what they mean is your desktop is basically a gigantic file browser. So right now I am on my desktop with Microsoft Edge and the Cairo setup. But what I can do is I can use this interface right here to go up one directory, or forward one directory, or even browse specifically for a directory. So let's say that I wanted to browse the contents of my C drive. I can click that, press OK, and these are all of the contents that are on my C drive. So what this allows you to do is kind of browse for files and folders without having to open up a bunch of different windows. It's all done right on your desktop right here. And this is seen throughout Cairo, throughout the entire interface. So this interface that I was talking about up here, where you can kind of click on your menu items and browse for specific folders, when you click on a folder, it's not actually going to open up in File Explorer, it's going to open up on the desktop. And this interface right here is very similar to like Expose or something like that on macOS, where it actually kind of takes over your entire desktop. So if you had like a bunch of windows open and you were to click on one of these folders up here, it comes up with this overlay where even if I had like a bunch of windows in the background, now the desktop is going to kind of overtake that and become the main interface, and then I can kind of browse through here and open up whatever file that I want. And then if I click on any blank area of the desktop, it'll go back to normal. And now if I had like a bunch of windows open, they would all kind of be at the forefront basically. So this home button right here is set to your desktop. So if you press that, that's going to get you back to all the icons that are shown on your desktop. Launching applications is obviously basically exactly the same as it was through Windows Explorer. You just double click on it, and it opens up the application right here. So you see Word, Microsoft Edge now. And this brings us to a great transition point where we can now talk about the new taskbar down here. So the taskbar, as I said, is a completely new interface. And it kind of replaces the long taskbar that was across the entire screen, and it also centers it as well. So right now I've got Microsoft Edge open, and you can see that when I minimize it, things do minimize down here, although it still kind of looks like it's kind of going to the left corner. You can kind of see over here. So as I open up different applications, so let's say that I open up a Notepad and File Explorer, which yes, you can still open File Explorer, and Paint, you can see that it dynamically adjusts here and it expands as new applications open up. There's also a quick launch functionality where if I want to say pin Edge to the taskbar, I can right click on it and click add to quick launch, and now this is kind of going to be all of the applications that I very frequently use and want a quick easy way to access them. So let's say I'm going to do the same thing with Notepad. I can add to Quick Launch, File Explorer, add to Quick Launch. So now I've got these applications over here that are going to be shown there no matter if I have Windows open or not. And this button right here to the left opens up the desktop overlay, which is what I talked about before, where if I had a bunch of windows open, I can click that, and now my desktop, which is my file browser, is now going to be at the forefront. So then I can kind of browse through here and get to certain files and certain applications very easily. Now, one of the things that you can't do with this interface, and this is kind of unfortunate, is there's no real drag and dropping. So for example, let's say that I have this paint window open up here, and just kind of imagine this is like a more advanced editing tool like Photoshop, and I have this image here that I want to edit. Well, I can't just drag it into the program. You see that it's just not going to work. You have to actually either open it up from the program or actually kind of right click on it and go to open with, and then paint, and then now it will actually open up with paint. So that is kind of one of the unfortunate things if you're used to just dragging and dropping things. Now this other button down here is your task list, and basically this is going to come in handy if you have a ton of applications open. So let me just open up like a ton of different applications here. We'll open up Paint 3D, we'll open up the snipping tool, WordPad. Now you're obviously going to come to a point where you can kind of overflow this taskbar. We're not quite there yet, but that's where this interface over here comes in, this task list. What you can do is click on this and get a view of all the open applications. These are only the applications that are open on your system right now. And it actually separates them in the same categories that you specified in the Programmers menu up here. So like if I wanted to switch to the Windows Media Player, I can see Media right there, Windows Media Player, boom, there it is. If I wanted to, okay, settings, I want to go to Disk Cleanup, because that's the only settings program that I have open. So it's definitely very useful because it just really separates all of your open programs by the type that you specified in the app grabber. So it's definitely very useful. Let's go ahead and just close all these windows. Also, from the taskbar down here, you can right click, and not only can you pin things to the quick launch, but this is where you can open up the task manager, and that's obviously one of the things you're able to do from the Windows taskbar. You can right click on it and click open task manager, so that's kind of a replacement for that. You can also minimize and restore windows. And this actually does not dynamically adjust, so like the minimize option is still here even when the window is minimized. So it's kind of two separate options rather than one option that just changes depending on whether the window's minimized or open. And then you also have a close option right here if you don't want to click on the X up here. We're just going to not save that. Also, one of the things with the dynamic desktop is this interface right here. If you don't really like it where it is, you can actually move it around. So like if I want it to be down here in this corner, or over here, or maybe like up here, you can very easily do that. Now with the taskbar, you cannot do that like just by right clicking on this, and there's not like a move option or anything like that there. You have to actually go up to the Cairo settings, go into taskbar, and you can change this to top, and then you have to actually restart Cairo to apply that. So if you do that, it's going to relaunch the program, and once it does that, you'll see that the taskbar is now at the top of the screen. So if you're used to that, and if you want this interface to maybe be down here at the very bottom, well, you can definitely do that. Now, one of the major disadvantages, and this might not really be a major disadvantage to you if you don't really use this functionality a lot, but if you have Cairo set as your default shell, which is basically the replacement for Windows Explorer, where Windows Explorer is not going to start at startup. If you were to log out of your session, or reboot would do this exact same thing, and you log back in, when Cairo launches, Windows Explorer is not going to launch, and that means that all of your keyboard shortcuts no longer work. So for example, if I press the Windows key, it's not going to open up the start menu, it's going to open up this Programmers menu, which is not really a big deal, but when it comes to things like, for example, I very often press Windows key R to open up the run command. Well, Windows key R no longer does anything. When you press Windows key, it just is going to open up the Programmers menu. When you press Windows key I, it's not going to open up the modern UI settings. So yeah, there's definitely some keyboard shortcuts that if you're really used to that, you're not going to be able to use those anymore if you have Cairo running as the default shell. Now, if you go into this Cairo menu and go to Cairo settings, there is an option if you go under advanced to hit set Windows Explorer as shell. So if you hit this, and then you have to actually log off now and kind of re-log back in. Now Cairo is not going to be the default shell, so it's going to load up with Windows Explorer just like it normally would, and then you can launch Cairo if you want to use it. Now it does launch with all of your desktop icons hidden, so you can see that I have to show the icons for them actually to show up because Cairo does hide it, and it also has the taskbar as set to auto hide, and that was some modifications that Cairo itself did. So you could obviously set that back to your liking if you want to, but if you want to launch Cairo, you have to do it from the Windows start menu. So I can go in here and launch Cairo desktop, and now Cairo is going to take over Windows Explorer. But Windows Explorer is still running in the background because if I press the Windows key, the start menu is still here. If I press Windows key R, I can still open up Run. So it doesn't like completely take over everything is basically what I'm trying to say. If you have it not as your default shell. Now if you have it as your default shell, as you just saw, you're not going to be able to use those keyboard shortcuts like you might be used to. But there you have it, guys. That is an in-depth look at the Cairo shell replacement for Windows 7 and up. Yeah, definitely a very unique interface replacement for Windows. I could see this being used by somebody who maybe wasn't really so used to Windows, was more used to macOS or maybe even Linux, and just kind of wanted a more, familiar interface, something that they're more used to for their Windows system. Yeah, it's definitely pretty unique. And again, if you guys want to actually check this out, I will have the link down below, and it's pretty awesome that this is free. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, definitely be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to get subscribed down below and turn on those channel notifications if you haven't already to get notified whenever that I upload a new video, which I do every single week on this channel. And be sure to leave me a comment down below letting me know your guys' thoughts on this specific interface shell. Is this something that you guys would use? Have you guys used this before? Be sure to let me know, as I always enjoy reading what you guys have to say. And as always, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.